but I've been away and not doing much except monitoring the emails about the lack of a good workable environment. Anyway, and what's the deal? Who's been speaking lately with Sam? Because he put out some messages, and I was expecting him to if he was around to start it this morning. Is he in? He's not in Japan yet, is he?
Yeah, so he's in Japan, and I guess it's like almost midnight there now. Okay. So that might be why he hasn't joined us. But yeah, like, so you did see him and I had a back and forth, because I've been testing out the Code Envy to see if that's an alternative that we can give to people instead of C9. Although I'm not sure exactly why we're trying an alternative, but maybe one of you knows.
Yeah, I mean, I can test. We started with virtual machines, which are not all that bad, and I'm getting a sense that that's not what people are looking at as a viable backup. But I expect we'll revisit that if these cloud systems don't come together. So we're using virtual machines for like 3-4 years. Mm-hmm. And then Cloud9 came on the scene, which is and that's where I have the either terminology issue in terms of what the emails were saying. Cloud9 I wouldn't consider an IDE, although maybe it is, but it's basically a full-on sort of Unix box, Unix workspace, or Linux workspace in the cloud. And I think of an IDE as something that we work inside that environment that aids and assists in the coding process. But Cloud9 as an ID, as an alternative appeared, and we were doing actually for my recollection is for a year or two what we're doing now, or what it sounds like you're doing now with Code Envies. But when it first came on the scene, we tried some things, and it looked like it could work a little bit. We got the basic Ruby assignments up and running, and then it sort of fell apart when we tried to configure it for Rails with all the sort of underlying Unix tools that we used for maintaining the environment. And then a year later we started it again, looking at it again, and things had improved enough that we could really it could replace the virtual machine. And because of various setup and configuration issues, that seemed desirable. And in fact, it was mostly desirable. The only problem with the with Cloud9 is that if you didn't have an internet connection, you were toast. And on a virtual machine, you could, in theory, take your laptop to the beach and do your assignments, except for submitting them. You could do all the work there. So the deal with Code Envy, and I haven't looked at it all, is it, as far as you know, just like Cloud9?
Yeah, I mean, it's really similar. The issue that, like, so I already had the repo and everything on my local machine because I've done the homework. And the first issue I ran into is that like I chose the Rails stack because you can kind of choose what you want to use as default on a specific workspace. And so that had that installed by default, I guess, Ruby 2.4.4, which wasn't playing nicely with the gem file. So then what I would do locally, I thought, well, I need more, a Ruby version manager. So I tried installing RVM, and it seems to have installed okay. But then like there's some steps that if you're doing it locally that you need to like restart your computer because it adds changes to paths and different things like this. And then it wasn't immediately obvious to me how to, like, I tried rebooting it within the terminal there, and that wasn't working. And I tried stopping the workspace and starting it again, and that wasn't working, and searching on the internet and didn't find anything. And in the end, it was just easier for me to change the gem file to using 2.4.4. And then I was able to run bundle, and it seems like everything was working okay. But I guess, I don't know if you saw, I was going to have a play today at Sam's request of seeing if maybe we can Dockerize the process instead of like using a VM. I guess you just use Docker to.
Okay.
But I don't know how you feel about that.
And that would that all be working locally then for this?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be working inside of a Docker container, but like, yeah, it would involve, I mean, I guess the person would need to have Docker installed, right? So but getting Docker installed is a lot simpler than getting, like the right Ruby version, or like a Ruby installed, depending on what computer they have, and a Ruby version manager installed so they can use the Ruby version that the course uses, and make sure like the right database, or you can just kind of do that in one single command, if you have once you install Docker.
Okay. Okay. So, but that's still a work in progress. No one. Okay. And let me answer your question. By the way, I was sort of half waiting for Jay Cunin to come on, but it looks like I'm seeing he's joining and leaving, so he
Yeah.
might be having some computer issues. I'll mention. I'll say this again if he comes on, but Jay and I just coincidentally worked together almost 40 years ago, and when we were graduate students, and I saw his name asking for some help in a message to this. It's like, does anyone know this? And I recognized his name, so so we've reconnected a little bit as a result of this. Although maybe he saw me online and he decided he couldn't take it and dropped out. Anyway, let me answer your question. The issue with Cloud9 is everything was all hunky dory. And then Amazon bought Cloud9 maybe a couple of years ago. And I was pleased to see that, because I'm looking at Cloud9 and we're all using this free service. And I have no idea how the internet works and makes people money. But here it was, like, I wasn't sure if Cloud9 is going to stay in business and all that. And I said, well, Amazon buying it is gonna make it last. So initially I saw that as a good thing, but what they seem to have done is they have probably in some sense a somewhat competing service with their AWS, and it looks like they're trying to move everyone to AWS. And AWS, I think, if it's fully correctly configured, will do can do very similar things to Cloud9 can do, but apparently it's not easy to configure AWS in that way. And so, I guess it's hard to believe. You figure like, oh, you just set up, just list out the steps and follow the steps and it'll happen. But apparently, I know a lot of things sound like they should be easier than they are, and people aren't really. Everyone who tries setting up AWS, and I tried that years and years, when we were first doing the virtual machines, is not trivial. So what's the issue? So where things stand is, I'm hoping, like some of us who have legacy Cloud9 accounts, I'm hoping I can still just do what I did before. But it's not clear to me for sure if I can. Does anyone, Janet, have you tried your Cloud9 stuff?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I can even log in. That one used the GitHub login, right?
Yeah, that was what we recommended, is that you log in with your GitHub credentials, and that's what I've always done. But I'm assuming, so there's two things. One is, can we use it as we did before, and the other is, what can new students do? And that's the rub, is even if we as teachers can do it, there's no reason to believe that the students, or we have a concern of, can the students sign up for an old legacy Cloud9 account, and we think that may have gone away. Jay, you have tried that? If you have audio, so that's the issue. Now I have a little bit of a wild card, because just last year I signed up for something called Cloud9 Education. And what that allows me to do is create a group that then I can create workspaces for the students to clone, and then I start up specifying what their workspaces are with whatever its starting point is, and then I have at least some kind of limited access to the students' workspaces. So if they need help, or if I want to go in and peek at something, I can do that. And that was although it added, some extra work on our side, it was a good management tool.
I guess I started off programming, just doing everything locally, but then I went to take a course on Udemy that asked to do C9, and so I steered away from signing up because they wanted my credit card, and I'm like, well, if these are free, why do you want my credit card? But then I was told, and I think Sam confirmed this as well, that if, as long as you get an invite from like Agile Ventures or from this, like, that you have been doing, then you don't need to give them your credit card. So
right, that's what GitHub Education allowed me to do. I'm sorry, that's what Cloud9 Education allowed me to do, was those invites into my group meant the students didn't need to supply the credit card. I will just, let me add one other thing that is concerning me, is that before, when they originally set it up for it, I had to pay $1 a month. And that was mostly, I'm assuming, to validate the credit card that I was a legitimate person. But that allowed me unlimited people in my group. And now, the last time I looked is either in the summer or the spring, they had cut it down to 50 people in a group. And unfortunately, my upcoming fall classes, I have 152. And so what I think I have to do is, if I'm even allowed to do it, I may have to sign up for like 3 or 4 just to get the extra 2 students in, and unless I can get people to drop in the first couple of days.
150,
and that will cost me a few dollars a month, which is, not a huge deal, but it's like a harder thing to manage rather than just having one group with everyone. So these are all unknowns that I have to figure out in the next few weeks. But basically, that answers your question about why is it that we're looking at alternatives to Cloud9. We like Cloud9 still. We just don't know if people can access it. New users can access it anymore.
Okay.
Jay, Janet, you've been looking at the emails, and I guess with some kind of concern.
Yeah, I mean, I had used Cloud9 2 years ago, and our students, they pretty much all have credit cards. So, the only problem I've had with Cloud9 is students learn bad habits and try to use it instead of using Git. So, but yeah, no, it worked fine 2 years ago. But then
to share work with one another.
Yeah. So I was seeing all those emails and starting to panic, thinking, was it no longer working at all? So it sounds like it works. It's just the same issue we had 2 years ago.
No. I think not. I think you should have cause for concern. Let me see. Jay doesn't have audio, and this is like a YouTube kind. This is like a YouTube kind of thing.
Do you have the toolbox, the Hangout toolbox? You could, because I tried to go there, or not the toolbox, sorry, the control room, because I tried to go there, but I think because you started the call, only you can, Richard.
Let me look and see.
That's another good point, is that to participate, to speak, it would need to be here, but we could, send Jay to the YouTube live link and see if he wants to listen in and comment on Slack. Or
Richard, not if you can hear me.
Oh, there he is. There he goes. Did you do something, or did I?
I can't hear anything. I can see you fine. I can't hear you. And if I go to some other window on this computer, I can hear fine. So I don't know.
So say that again. So we can hear you, Jay. Are you saying you still can't hear us? I guess that may mean he can't hear us. Can you not hear us?
That's me, sir.
I see that. Okay, volume control.
Yeah, sometimes that control room, sometimes I can't hear anything on Hangouts, including playing the test sound. Okay. Do you have the link, Richard, to the YouTube live? Like, I could probably find it. Well, I'm not sure depending on who started it. But then, like, if we can hear him and he just is having problems hearing with Hangouts, maybe he can. The only thing about with this watching on YouTube live is that he'll be a couple seconds behind us, like the audio. But
so where is that live focus? There's a live controller. Right?
There's like on I think on the bottom right there's a little link called links that you can click on. That will give you the YouTube live link.
Okay, let me.
While we're doing that, I was just gonna say. Sorry.
Go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say about the whole Dockerization. Like, so I haven't tried it yet with the CS169, but we have just successfully Dockerized the website one site, which involves more, I think, more configuration than well, yeah, definitely involves more configuration than the CS169. So I'm hoping that it could go smoothly and
yeah, do you think that's a YouTube live link?
It looks like it, yeah.
Okay. So here's and let me just back up back to what Janet said, is that the issue with the credit card was the first change that we noticed after Amazon had acquired. And yeah, so, and for me, most of my students or all of them had the credit cards and it was fine. The problem is it's not clear to me that new students can sign up for the legacy C9 accounts.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
For me, most of my students or all of them had the credit cards and it was fine. The problem is it's not clear to me that new students can sign up for the legacy C9 accounts.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
For me, most of my students or all of them had the credit.
There we go. Cool. So it seems like Jay can hear us. So yeah, if maybe, I guess it's kind of difficult this way, but if Jay, if you want to talk, maybe you can mute the YouTube live and then unmute yourself on the Hangouts and chime in, and we'll respond.
Yeah, and we can even after we're done, I can play around, or one of us can work with Jay, and we can spend some time trying to figure out how to get the sound going, because who knows?
Yeah. So I don't. I mean, I guess the only thing I can add to the thing that you just brought up is that I guess this year I've signed up for a C9 through an invitation link, but I guess that's different than what you're saying. You're asking, your doubt is about like people signing up with the credit card will have like a free, like when you say legacy, like C9, you're talking about like have free access to the workspace.
Yeah, let me well, what I mean by that, let me see if I can screen share here. So when I go in, so
dots is about like people signing up with the credit card will have like a free, like when you say legacy, like C9, you're talking about like have free access to the workspace.
Yeah, let me. Okay, so what I mean by that, let me see if I can screen share here. Okay, now my sense is, okay, Jay, I'm not sure if that's coming from Jay, but I'm hearing myself like 30 seconds later. Yeah, and that's why I'm muting you, Jay. If that's not you, then we can unmute and figure out what the other thing is. Here's the screen that you get. This login for existing C9 IO customers, that's what I'm calling the legacy stuff, is that someone who comes in now will get started or sign up or so forth. And I think only if you already have an existing C9 account can you go in this way. So this is what I do. And I think this is what Janet just says. And then I sign up with my GitHub credentials. Okay, so they're exciting news. Who knows? So that's who I am. And now I'm in Cloud9. And then since I already signed up for education, then I can do some fancy things. These are my team subscriptions. I don't even know if I can create another one, right? And if I can't create another one, I'm sort of stuck because this right now, this may only limit me to 100 students. Each one of these is limited, recently was limited to 50. So the bottom line is there is a problem for new users. I don't know if I could, create a workspace or an invitation and get new instructors into let's say a new classroom of instructors, and then they might have legacy accounts, and would that give them any kind of privileges to sign up and create their own groups? I have no idea. That would be interesting to test out, because all these $1 a month here or there is not a big deal to resolve the problem, at least in the short term.
Can I just ask, like, the C9 instances you're using for mostly like people to do pair programming and mobbing sessions, or are you using mostly to get past all the configuration on people's local machines?
Okay, here the way I would describe it, the C9. You're saying like the students' individual C9?
Yeah.
That's to do all the work in the class.
Yeah, because the reason I'm asking is because I was going to follow it up by asking how you guys feel about like Dockerizing it, because then you can still do all the individual work, but I don't know if it's limiting as far as like, because we use C9 Agile Ventures to do mobbing sessions as well, so that people can actually go editing the same code in different. Right.
Okay, very good. So that I would consider a secondary advantage. For those students that do the pair programming, they can do it online interactively, and I encourage that with many people. I have the luxury of an in-classroom environment, so I would say only a fraction of my students actually share their workspaces, and sometimes that creates its own set of problems. But I'll have people working near one another on the same, either sharing a laptop or working side by side with one another, where they don't literally have to share. So the Docker setup, how is that different than essentially a virtual machine that's running locally?
Well, I guess it's not so much different. I think it's just maybe it doesn't use as much CPU, and like, so it'll be faster. But yeah, like you have to build the image just time. And then once it's built, then you just say Docker compose up, for example, and that'll start the server, for example, and then you just go coding away.
Okay.
I mean, for the first, like, I was just looking at the homework for the first week, the homework Ruby intro, and I mean, the only thing that I think that would need to be Dockerized is just to use the Ruby version. Like they already have images for, like, on the Docker Hub, they would have an image for a Ruby with a 2.4, for example, and then you just need to tell Docker to build that image, and that will well, actually, yeah, that's only half true. So the thing about so maybe this is goes back to why the problems I was having with CodeEnvy. It looks like Docker as well doesn't have an image for Ruby 2.4. They have just 2.4.4. So
okay, so here's the deal. Let me make a suggestion, and I'm loath to make any suggestions because Sam is like way more knowledgeable. So if he hasn't said this, it's probably not relevant. But my thought, what we generally do is, and you know how Sam says when he was using Cloud9, he didn't use any setup script. So if you just make sure that the environment has the proper version of Ruby, which until this semester or until now was 2.3.0, and now we think it should be 2.4.0. after that, then each repo that you bring in has its own gem file. And the first repo that we use, which is the it's going to be Sinatra, that the Sinatra homework specifies the versions of the gem files that it needs, and if the environment is like fully flexible, it should be able to bring in all the correct versions and not have bad versions or wrong versions or newer versions of some of the gems that we need. And my concern is if you start with their Rails sort of environment, you will be getting newer versions of a lot of the gem files, and that will cause problems.
Yeah, well, the way I mean, again, like we of course we need to check with Sam, because he's knowledgeable than I am as well. But like the way I think that, like, that he was suggesting, like, in as far as Dockerizing it, would be that each repo would have its own Docker file, and then
okay.
Script. So you would just need to go there. Like, first, there would have to be installation instructions at the beginning of the course to make sure that everyone has Docker on their local computers. But then after that, you would just be able to run one command, which would set up the, or two commands actually, which would set up the environment. And as part of setting up the environment, it actually runs bundle install. So it would be using the same gem file that we've all, well, I guess it's been changed now, but that's being used currently. So you wouldn't have any issues with dependencies being different, because it would be using those gem files.
But my sense is that if you initialize the environment with newer versions of the gem files, then that might cause some problems when you run bundle install. It might not revert back.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you would need to. The big thing that matters is just the Ruby version, like locking down which, if we can't use a Docker image for the 2.4, then that would cause a problem. Then we would need to see about upgrading to 2.4.4. But maybe that's a good idea anyways, because there might be a reason why, I haven't looked into it, but there might be a reason why CodeEnvy is reverting to 2.4.4 as well as Docker. Like, maybe that's the latest stable version of Ruby 2.4, and we should be using that anyways, So, but then once it pulls in that image from 2.4.4, then there shouldn't be any issues with running bundle install.
Okay. Well, listen, what's happened is that every time we've tried to upgrade to newer versions, there's a lot of other related gem files that wind up not being compatible and so forth. And it's only after you sort of really run through all the assignments that we find all this, and that's just a very time-consuming process. And even one person running through it sort of quickly for testing purposes often doesn't catch the things that the students
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. I mean, what I can do on my side is I can go setting up for to see if it's an option, as well as keep plugging away on CodeEnvy. And we have the weekly mobbing session where the sole purpose is to work through the CS169 and try to catch any issues. But I guess the idea, the cool thing about doing the Dockerized is that, I mean, if we can confirm that it works on more than one machine, which I ran into an issue thinking like the Dockerized worked on my machine, and then woo, it's great, let's do it, and then we had an issue with using other people's. But the idea is that if it does actually set up properly and builds, and you can open it up, and then it should work on regardless of what OS people are using and that kind of thing,
Yeah. And sort of there's another key sort of missing thing is where Armando fits in on this. Was he running a course in this fall? I can't remember, but basically he needs live for his students. And so, I know he put out the message and maybe there was a reply or two, but I'd like to see, and he's been in negotiations sometimes with Amazon and some of these companies to try and set things up. I know he was talking with Cloud9, there's a particular like automatic workspace generation that you could just choose if you're doing the Rails tutorial. And like at one point he was talking about setting it up so that if you're doing our course, you could just pick the workspace and it would have everything configured correctly, because we find that students, even when we give explicit instructions, students make mistakes. That was the issue. A big issue in the past few semesters was that we would say start Cloud9 and choose a blank workspace, and even though we said it and had it highlighted and in red, people chose Rails or Ruby or something, and all of those started putting in different versions of the gems and causing problems down the road.
Yeah, definitely.
So I sort of was hoping that that Sam would be here at least to give us the sort of the latest, but I guess he's accessible in email and hopefully able to work a little bit. And I have to figure out, when do people start? Jay, well, he's going to be behind us. Janet, when do you start?
I'm starting in, I think November.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's for, if I were you, that would
starting
be a big
in,
okay.
I think November.
Okay. Oh, okay. Wow.
Remember, my class is 3.5.
If I were you, that would
starting in,
okay.
I think November.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, Jay. I guess you can type your response. So basically, yeah, I start relatively early, like the August 21st. So it's the third week in August, and I'm probably, okay. So I'm probably on the early side here, but again, unless something really settles down, I might, and if I can use my old Cloud9 stuff, I will continue to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I know the MOOC starts on Tuesday, so I don't know if that answers your question earlier about Armando, but I think that he is a part of that, and that starts on Tuesday. So
this coming Tuesday?
Yeah, July 1st. No, August 1st. Yeah.
Oh, August. Oh, that's tomorrow.
Yeah. No, Tuesday
or Wednesday.
No, Wednesday. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, August 1st is on Wednesday. Yeah, and we're doing so on Agile Ventures. We have a weekend collaboration channel where we meet every Saturday and Sunday to go through the CS 169 course. So there's on top of the Fridays where we mob on the Agile development, there's also Saturdays and Sundays where we can go playing around with different things that potentially could help you guys. So yeah.
Okay. But what happens if this MOOC starts up? There's going to be an issue about what people do, and having spoken with people, you don't know what they're planning for the MOOC.
No, I mean, I'd have to go back there and check and see. I know that there's some people in the AV 102 course that, the TA course that are actually trying things out, but I don't remember if they talked about C9 as one of those things that I guess I can try to find a volunteer at Agile Ventures that doesn't have a C9 account and see if they can go there and set it up with the AWS and see if it's a straightforward process or not, or if they can request, like send their email to Sam and he can give them access and it works the same as it always has, or so I can do that as well.
Okay. And the other thing that I don't understand is the original virtual machine image that was sort of fine. And I'm not sure why that's not being talked about more, unless one of these other systems is really just does that also. So.
I mean, yeah, if we want to, I'm not an expert, but from what I understand is like maybe nowadays people are leaning more towards just using Docker instead of using VM. And maybe because like what I was saying earlier, I think like I don't have experience using VM, so I can't, but from what I understand, it can be like something that lags, like is not so responsive. But you said you didn't have any problems with it. So
well, actually, I found the opposite, in the sense that once you had the virtual machine set up, it was running locally on your machine, and the only issue was that some years ago I would have some people bringing their like what do they call these notebooks, ultrabooks, whatever, and they had only 2 gigabytes of memory and were not quite substantial enough to run a VM. But I know in my old 2008 Mac, I had a 3 gigabytes, and I was able to run a virtual machine, and it was, I would call it more responsive, because the network, at least in the classroom that I'm working in, using the internet in Cloud9, there could sometimes be significant lags, or wireless connections drop. That was another issue. I might have, well, I have 76 students in my classroom, so all of them, sort of banging away at the same time caused connectivity issues with the virtual machine. Was, again, once it was set up, all the work was local. So that had some advantages in my from my perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we'll have to continue with email or Slack and continue talking, because we're mostly what we're doing here is identifying the problem and not so much solving it, just because at least my lack of expertise and
yeah, I mean, as far as solving it, like, I guess just maybe the relevant thing is that I've had a go at starting the Code Envy stuff, but both Sam and I ran into snags with the whole not being the right Ruby version, and yeah, then maybe that brings into question whether 2.4 should even be the Ruby version that we're recommending, and not.
And I think, if I remember the last email, that they were saying is that the plan is either to would be upgrading all the gem files and testing things out, and that can be the next step.
Yep.
And then, but for me, the issue is the initial assignments usually are simpler to get working. It's once we get involved in the Rails environment, and even I believe Armando has chosen sort of some non-standard, like gem files associated with the environment, and all of those are going to create some dependencies in the way these assignments work. So all that's going to have to be checked out over the next few weeks. Yikes.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be available to help out any way I can.
That's great. Let me ask, just because it's coming up to the hour and people might have other things to do, is there anything else, and it's going to be, probably this would be mostly for Jay, who has the hardest time to communicate, any other sort of non-environment questions or things to bring up? I guess he's only, I feel like we're communicating with someone who's on the moon or on another planet. This is the way things are going to be. You're going to talk, and when we have someone on Mars, it's going to be like a few minutes before they hear our question and we get the answer back. So, okay, good. So there we go. Jay's on another planet. That's we were many years ago. Okay. Should we sort of call this a meeting, and then just try and, we know our biggest issue, and then we'll try and follow up an email and on Slack and see where we go. Yeah, and I'm around. I can do that for Jay.
Cool.
Okay. And then we'll try and find out if there's do you know, Matt, do you know if Sam is going to be able to participate in any of the Friday meetings?
I'm not. I mean, from what I understand, it's going to be, he's doing things via video conference is going to be difficult for him. That's why I volunteered to help get some stuff started, but it's limited what I can answer.
Yeah, right. That was like a 3 p.m. I mean, for my time, the Friday was a Friday afternoon, which would be like smack in the middle of the night for him.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can also as well. Maybe he's going to watch the videos because it's easier to watch videos than it is to video conference and respond, or like or take notes and email him. Or
well, we'll say this video may be painful for him to watch, as I can tell. But succinctly, I mean, we're basically just summarizing what's transpired in the email and just attaching some names to the faces to those comments.
Yeah.
All good. Anything else, Janet, before we?
No, I think my biggest concern is what environment to be using.
Yeah. So you'll be with November. That would, I wish I would like to trade places with you.
Yeah, I guess it's actually late October, but remember, my class is 3.5 weeks long. So
I understand.
If I have if a glitch takes 2 days, that's 2 homework assignments they've missed.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I ran this course for the first time in the summer, this past summer, and that's 3 times the speed. So it's like about 5 or 5+ weeks, and I was doing three assignments a week, and it was there was no breathing room. There's no room for error. Okay, we will stay in touch and on Slack and the email, and I'll try and next Monday I will be at the beach. I don't know what my internet will be like. But so we'll see if it goes. I'll try and start it next Monday. Although Matt, you were almost about to start it.
Yeah, I just was doing something else and lost track of the time. Yeah, I can start as well if you can't.
Yeah, I should know. I think there's a 50-50 chance, but be prepared. Okay.
Well, yeah, I guess the last meeting you kind of tried to join, and then we had that problem and stuff. But now that I know that it's coming up, your class is starting right away and stuff, I can just like default to starting it on time. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's good. Okay, take care, guys. Have a good week.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.